Somebody has to save our skin.
Wonderful girl! I'm gonna kill her or I'm beginning to like her!
Hey everyone, and welcome back to My Nerdy Home. Today is makeup and media. I usually do these live, but I am going to start doing them as separate videos as well because I love doing these live, but I also kind of want to talk about things while I get ready, you know, to go on different live streams or to just film other videos. So I thought that since a lot of people like my makeup and media streams, I would add another video to my channel, an edited video. Today, we are going to play with some makeup and talk about The Tiger King. All right, so The Tiger King is a new series on Netflix. It's a very popular series on Netflix. It is mainly about two people. These two people being Mr. Joe Exotic and Carole Baskin. Joe Exotic is the self-proclaimed Tiger King who the show is about, and Carole Baskin is like his #1 nemesis, I suppose. Now, there are some more characters, of course, on this show. These are real people, and these are real, my goodness, just hot mess people. Like, oh, wow. However, the core of this show deals with Joe Exotic and Carole Baskin. So who are these people? What makes this series so compelling that everybody is talking about them? There's being videos made about them. There's petitions to have Joe Exotic free from prison. There's Reddit threads created about them. They have pretty much taken over social media, and they are pretty much what everyone is escaping to. Who are these two people? So Joe Exotic was born Joseph Allen Shrevogel. I think that's how you say his name. Like, it is spelled incredibly complicated. It's like Shrevogel. He was born in Kansas and he worked on a farm, and he was an openly gay man. He went through a lot of trauma in his younger days, and then he moved away. He just moved away from where he was. While he was living on his own, he got his first big cat. So he started building his zoo in 1999 in Oklahoma, and it was called the Greater Wynwood Exotic Animal Park, and it housed mainly giant cats. And we get to see this in the documentary. Like, a lot of what takes place is at his little zoo. The staff live there, he lives there. His whole life is at this zoo because he takes care of his tigers. Now, Joe himself is a very outlandish person. He is just, wow. I don't even know how to explain him. Joe is an openly gay man, so he does live on site with his husband. He's telling us what he likes to do. He's showing us around his little zoo and telling us where his love of cats comes from, and he showed us something else that he really loves. He really loves singing, and he really loves making music videos about tigers and Carole Baskin. Now, who is Carole Baskin? So I am not even playing. From the moment that we are introduced to Carole Baskin, you can't help but hate the woman. She comes across as incredibly pretentious. Like, she's the only person in the world who's ever loved big cats. You see right through her. You really do. Now, Carole, her life has been an interesting story, to say the least. So she starts off by telling us that, you know, the very first photo to exist of her is of her and the house cat. She was just destined to love and to save cats. It was written in the stars. Like, that was her that was her mission from the start. Carole lives down in Florida, and in this series we do see her with her third husband. Her third husband, because this is her third marriage. The first husband we don't really get too much about. We don't hear too much about him aside from Carole's point of view and the stories that she tells us. Her second husband, though, now that's an interesting story. So according to Carole, her first husband, whose name is Michael Murdoch, was abusive. And one night things got so heated that she needed to distract him in order to get away. She did so by throwing a potato and running out the door. While she was out walking around, she met a man named Don Lewis. She had said that Don Lewis was driving around and he was seeking somebody to talk to, and he saw her and she looked visibly upset, so he asked her to get in the car with him and just drive around with him, and she said no, and he was like, come on, and she said no. And so then he drove up on her again, this time with a gun in the seat, and said, hey, you can point this gun at me, just get in the car and let's drive around and talk. And she did. And she said that the whole time that they were driving around and talking, she was holding the gun at him. But it was okay because she liked him. That's fucking weird. What is going on? I'm sure, yeah, that's just an everyday occurrence. Oh my God. So she ended up starting to date Don Lewis, and they ended up like getting engaged while they were both still married, because Don Lewis was married and Carol was still married, and they both got divorces and they married each other. And oh, did I mention that Don Lewis was a multi-millionaire? So yeah, I'm sure that she married him for love. I mean, maybe she did, but she really didn't come across like she did. So I guess the marriage was fine according to her, but then things kind of got a little crazy because, you know, crazy can only hide itself for so long. And this Carol chick, she's fucking crazy. So Don wanted a divorce, but she didn't, and she refused to give him one. He filed restraining orders against her. They were rejected. She filed restraining orders against him. They were still living together because they were still married, and he was like, I'm serious, I want a divorce. And then all of a sudden, without a trace, he goes missing. He just up and goes missing. Yep. He goes missing. His disappearance was investigated, but like there was never any foul play involved. Now here's where things get a little bit interesting. Carol and her husband both owned Big Cat Rescue. So Little Miss Carol is a big cat owner. The only difference between Carol and Joe Exotic is absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. And he also does like cub petting or something like that. They both love big cats. His is a zoo and hers is a rescue. Carol Baskin thinks that she's in the right. She has the money to make things happen, whereas Joe Exotic doesn't. So whatever she wants, she can buy, because her husband, her missing husband, was a millionaire. After he disappeared and he was declared legally dead in 2002, she inherited his estate. So she pretty much has the money to own and operate her little rescue, as well as, you know, do it. I mean, I don't know, she's a freaking millionaire, so she can do whatever the fuck she wants. So let me tell you, she certainly does not dress like a millionaire. This lady is like head to toe in leopard print. She is herself a hot little mess. Like, if you think that your life is crazy, if you think you're going through stuff, no, it's nothing compared to the lives that these people lead. So the reason that I am mentioning Carol Baskin's marriage history is because a lot of people, including Joe Exotic, really do think that she fed her husband to one of her tigers. They really think that she did that. And that is why nobody can find him. Why he up and went missing is because she killed him by feeding him to one of her cats. So yeah, that's the accusation that's been thrown around. In the series, like, this woman just laughs it off. She's like, oh my God, no. No way, it can't happen. Like, how would that even work? How would that happen? And then later on in the series, she's like, if you want a tiger to attack someone, just pour some type of oil on him. Can't remember what the oil is, like fish oil or salmon oil or something like that. Like, just pour it all over them and they'll attack. It's like, lady, did you just out yourself? Like, how would you know that unless you've already done that? So now Carol Baskin is single, but wait, she can't be single, y'all. Oh no, oh no. No, no, no. She has a third husband, and we see this third husband in this documentary, and sir, run, dude, like, run. And if you're not gonna run, at least sleep with, you know, one eye open. I would be really worried about this lady. I really would. So her third husband's name is Howard Baskin, and he's the one that we see throughout the series. He's the one that's kind of like helping her out with her Joe Exotic issues. Because, ladies and gentlemen, there are many issues between her and Joe Exotic. They are just freaking obsessed with each other. Oh my God, it's like a who's the bigger cat lover between the two. The obsession between Joe Exotic and Carol Baskin is freaking ridiculous, and it gets to the point where Joe Exotic like makes a music video about her killing her husband by feeding him to a tiger using a Carol Baskin lookalike. I mean, it's nuts. This show is crazy. Now, Joe Exotic has a YouTube channel. I believe it was a YouTube channel. I really don't know. But on this podcast or channel or whatever it was, I mean, he would use it like on the daily to trash Carole Baskin. And Carole Baskin in return would either trash him or bring up lawsuits against him, and she had the money to do it, and he has really nothing. But Jesus, this show is horrible. So let's go back to Joe Exotic. So in this documentary, we are introduced to one of Joe Exotic's husbands, and his name is John Finley. Now, I don't know why they didn't give this man a shirt. He's like being interviewed throughout the series without a shirt on. Like, it's bad enough that he has meth mouth. Like, all these people, like Joe Exotic, his two husbands, the people that work there, like, they all use drugs. Jesus, this guy has a bad case of meth mouth. It's so bad. I guess now he has brand new teeth, but they couldn't have, like, come on, man. You couldn't have given the guy a shirt. He's got a bad grill. Put a shirt on the dude, you know? So yeah, then someone by the name of Travis Maldonado comes to work at the park, and Joe is just obsessed with this Travis guy. It's like super tall, keeps talking about his hands, like how they're so big, and so they start like this relationship together. Usually you like kind of root for the underdog, the little guy, right? You can't root for Joe, because Joe, to me, like lured this kid in with drugs. Like, he was a drug addict, and he kind of like lured him in with drugs, kept him on drugs. You know, he made him stay at the zoo on the sanctuary, like never let him leave. And he asked his husband John if they could have like this three-way marriage, and John was like, okay. They had this wedding where all three of them were dressed up in pink, and they all got married. So now Joe has two husbands. Not for long, because it turns out that John ain't that gay either. So John ends up having a relationship with the cashier that works at the zoo. He ends up knocking her up, and he leaves Joe and he marries the cashier. Not only that, but apparently it is known, widely known, that his other husband Travis is not that gay either. People say that, yeah, he sleeps around with all the girls. Joe kind of jokes around like, yeah, I'm gay, but I like straight guys. What's really sad is that his younger husband, Travis, is really depressed. He's really upset. He's constantly telling Joe that he's unhappy. He wants to leave the park. Joe doesn't listen. He doesn't want to listen to him. You see him getting really upset, and he's kind of frustrated. And then, I don't know if it was an accident or on purpose, but he shoots himself in the face. Yeah. And Joe Exotic is already married to someone else. I believe his name was Dylan in the show. But I was like, whoa, you lost both of your men. You're already married. And one of them dies. The other one currently still works at the zoo with his wife, who's pregnant. Like, it was so freaking confusing. Oh my God, man. And it was really hard because Travis's mom was on the series, and she was talking about how Joe invited her to his wedding, and she went because she wanted to be there for him. She was shocked at how little time he took to mourn her son, but she went anyways, and it wasn't even a huge wedding. It was just a photo session. So he basically used his dead husband's mother to show, I guess, his following, because at the time I believe he was running for president. Oh my God, we'll get to that. Or governor, one of the two. To kind of show people, yeah, it might be soon, but look, Travis's mom's here, so it must be okay, right? His mom looked heartbroken. And speaking of families, let's talk about the family of Don Lewis, because they were also featured in the documentary, and they believe that Carole Baskin had something to do with his death, but they're not allowed to like talk about it or bring it up or look into it, because Carole will go after them, and she has in the past. What the fuck is up with that? Why wouldn't she let them find out what happened to her husband? Why? What is she hiding? See, this is what makes me believe that she really did something, despite everything that she says. What she wants people to believe, like, there is no doubt in my mind that she had something to do with it. It's like so super shady, because there was like a longtime worker of her missing husband, and she was supposedly the executor of the will. Well, Carole break in and they take papers, one of these forms being the will, and after they take it, that woman, the longtime worker, is not the executor holder of the will, and everything goes to Carol. Like, how super shady is that? So let's get back to the feud. This feud pretty much started because it seems like Carol wants to be like the only big cat zoo or rescue or whatever you want to call it anywhere. Like, she thinks that she's the only person that's allowed to like big cats and own a big cat rescue, and nobody else. Everyone else is wrong who owns these cat sanctuaries or whatever you may call them, zoos, and she's the only one that's right, and she's the only one that's allowed to have one. And she has tried multiple times to bring Joe's zoo down. Yeah, that's basically like where this feud started or stemmed from, is Carol tried to shut him down, and he was like, who the hell is this bitch? Why is she trying to shut me down? And it basically kind of like, I guess, fueled his rage or something, and he looked her up and he became obsessed with her to the point where like he hated Carol Baskin. He like hated this person. He would talk about her all the time. He loved shooting guns and blowing things up, so he would get, I don't know, mannequins, and he would put on there like Carol Baskin, or he would say, hey look, that's Carol, and he would blow it up or he would shoot it, and it was really like, whoa dude, almost out of hand. Like, he would even do it on whatever little show that he had. He really hated this lady, and I don't blame him. She's a freaking bitch, but like, to me, they're all trash people. So what Joe did as like his retaliation for all of her protests against his use of doing the cub petting and having a zoo is he used the name Big Cat Rescue, which was Carol's name, as well as different things that were similar to her logo, like the blue cat eyes or something like that. Baskin ended up suing Joe Exotic for trademark infringement, and she won. She won a $1 million settlement against Joe Exotic, and that basically put him out of business. So he was like backed into a corner, and he didn't know how to get out of it. He didn't have $1 million. He ends up running for president as an independent candidate in 2016. Oh my god. Of course he didn't win, but like, the fact that he ran for president is just like, what? Well, he lost. Did he take a break? No, he did not take a break. He ended up trying to run for the governor of Oklahoma afterwards in the Libertarian Party. Okay, so Joe Exotic has this lawsuit. He lost this lawsuit, and he now owes like $1 million. Normally, if someone gets the settlement against them for like $1 million, you know you can't pay them. It's just like a statement. We won, there, suck it, right? You don't expect them to pay. Carol Baskin expected him to pay. And so Joe was looking to climb out from under this. So what happened is we are introduced to someone named Jeff Lowe. He's kind of shown to be like this Vegas high roller. It seems like he has a lot of money, and Joe is like instantly smitten. As soon as he meets him, no one else matters, only Jeff Lowe. And so Jeff Lowe, he kind of like takes advantage of that. He shows Joe a good time in Vegas, and he's like, sure, yeah, I'll help you out with your park. No one's opinion matters. He only wants to listen to Jeff Lowe, and it turns out that like Jeff Lowe is like this shady dude. He's like a con artist. Joe Exotic like ends up signing over the park to Jeff Lowe. Jeff Lowe is not the person that he was making himself out to be. He's basically a criminal. Like, he introduces Joe to his friend, or his investor friend, James Garrettson. They're like, yeah, we'll totally help you out with your park. And no, they totally did not. They did not do that at all. He got took. Joe Exotic got took. Jeff Lowe brought his own guy on. His name was Alan. Oh, I didn't mention this. At the same time, Joe is like being filmed for another documentary. I guess like a separate documentary. I don't know how many people are filming this guy, but like, I guess he's being filmed too by someone else who's filming a documentary on him. And he ends up getting told that like that footage isn't his either, because of the contract that he signed. Told him that like the show that he works on, all that footage, all the footage that they shoot of his daily life, like none of that's his. He doesn't have any ownership to anything, and he like loses it. And there's like this huge like shed or something that they have, and that they work out of when they're doing the show, and all of the footage that they filmed over the course of so many years of filming Joe. It's all in the shed. Nothing is backed up either. It's all in the shed. A storage unit, I guess it looks like. It's like a huge storage unit. And while Joe is conveniently gone, it ends up getting blown up, and everything gets completely destroyed. The guy who's doing the documentary is like really upset, and he kind of just like walks away. He's just like, whatever. And it's like this huge controversy because there's camera footage of someone going to blow up the shed. And I really think that It was someone that worked for Joe. Joe told them, I really think that Joe told them to go and blow up this shed or set it on fire or whatever, because he was blaming Carole Baskin or trying to push the focus like away from him. But I really think that he had something to do with it. Okay, so Joe has been taken for a ride. He owes Carole $1 million. She wants to take his mom's house. She is just this trash person, and he's like at the end of his rope. And so the guy that works or constantly says like, I only work for Jeff Lowe, like that guy. He goes up to that guy and he's like, hey, he thinks that this guy has murdered somebody because he's got a tattoo of a teardrop underneath his eye, and supposedly that stands for, hey, I guess what? I've been in jail and I've murdered someone in the past. Like that's all he has to go on. It's not the brightest tool in the tool shed. So he goes up to him and he's like, I'm gonna give you $3,000 and I want you to go down to Florida and take her out. Like, I want you to kill her. He thought that Joe was joking. Like, they've constantly joked about it before, but this time I guess money like exchanged hands, which means that it's a huge deal. It's now like murder for hire. So something happens and I don't really quite remember it 100%, but Joe is being secretly wiretapped for some reason. I can't even remember why, but he's being secretly wiretapped. Some law officials tell Jeff Lowe and James Garretson that Joe Exotic is being looked into and they want to bring them in as informants, or we're going to, you know, arrest you because they're involved in some shady shit. Like, these two men are criminals. So they end up becoming like secret informants for them, and they give them information about the hit on Carole Baskin's life. They tell them who it was that Joe hired, Alan, trying to find him, and they can't find him, and it's because Alan never went to Florida. He ended up like just saying, sure, I'll kill her, but he didn't go kill her. He just took the money and left. And he's like, yeah, I never went down there. Like, I just took his money and left. So officials end up bringing Alan in and they start asking him questions, and they're now building this case against Joe Exotic. And Joe and his new husband end up going on the run and they can't find him, but then they finally do find him and they arrest him, and that's why he's in jail. What was really sad to me was that at his trial, nobody came to bat for him. Every single person that he had with him throughout the years, everybody was a witness against him. It was really, really bad, and I felt really bad for him. It was just really, really sad watching that. Like, can you imagine spending all of your time with these people? You need them to come to bat for you, but they're too scared. They're too scared to speak in your favor. So yeah, that part was pretty sad. So we finish off with Joe Exotic. He's in prison. Now let's finish off talking about one more person, because we need to talk about Doc Antle. This guy was featured in the documentary, and let me tell you, he is the other guy that Carole Baskin is like trying to take down. And if he gets taken down, I won't be upset. This dude runs a cult. I'm not even kidding. This is a cult. He runs a cult. He's a polygamist. I'm not saying that that's the reason I think it's a cult. The people he has working for them, they work for like $100 a week. He gives them like no time off. They're constantly working. There was this one girl, the way she talks about working there, it's literally, it sounds like a cult. Like, I've watched cult documentaries, and the way she talks about this place, it sounds like a cult. So she was like, yeah, we worked there and I was able to escape and get away. But the reason that a lot of people don't is because they don't have anywhere to go. And usually with cults, like, that's how it is. Like, they don't have anything, they don't know anything outside of where they're working. They don't think that they have anywhere else to go. This dude running a cult, it's like an animal cult, and he has like 3 or 4 wives or something like that. Like, he has a bunch of wives, but he also hates this Carole Baskin lady. He's something else, dude. His little place ends up getting raided. I'm not too sure what's gonna happen to him. So yeah, obviously, there is a lot more to this show than what I'm sharing with you. I'm probably making it sound so freaking boring, but it is incredibly entertaining. I loved watching it. It is such a freaking hot mess. Like, the people that you're just introduced to, oh my god. It's like, where do they come from? Where do they come from? And you're warned. You're warned. You are warned at the very beginning about what you're about to see. At the very beginning of the documentary, they're like, you know, there's all different kind of pet owners, but the big cat owners, they're crazy. So there's a warning for you right before you're about to jump into this mess. I love it. I found it wildly entertaining. Wow, this is such a hot mess. It's like a slow car crash. You can't help but watch. You're instantly pulled into it and you can't help it. You just have to keep watching. I highly recommend that you check out The Tiger King if you haven't already. Let me know if you have in the comments down below and what you thought of it. So I really hope you guys enjoyed watching. Please come and say hi to me on Instagram and Twitter. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up and feel free to share it around if you like. Also, I hope you consider subscribing and let me know in those comments down below what videos you'd like to see in the future. Okay, I'll see you guys next time. Bye everyone.